Tonight, desperate times. Key figures in the Spencer Gulf come together to tackle the housing crisis issue. And mourning a Whyallas legend, footy icon Neil Curley passes away aged 88.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening. The regional South Australia housing crisis continues, and a recent survey suggests it won't be improving anytime soon. The mayors of Spencer Gulf cities revealed a projected population growth of 9% over the next 10 years, adding additional pressure to the already exacerbated problem.
Families sleeping in tents, with long waits before a roof can be placed over their heads. Minister for Human Services, Nat Cook, knows it shouldn't be like this.
Regional and metropolitan public housing is an absolute priority. We need to make sure we get some outcomes for people, because it really isn't good enough that the only option for families is sleeping in tents and caravans. It's just not appropriate.
Minister Cook meeting with Port Pirie Mayor Leon Stevens to further discuss the issue.
She's really got a good grasp on it, and I understand that, from when we left, we've got the reassurance that she's got this. She's actually going to look into it a little bit, and we know that the problem is not going to be something that you can just fix, nor is it just a problem that the government has to face. And I think the private sector has great opportunity here to actually invest in it and get good returns.
There are a number of factors contributing to the housing crisis here in Port Pirie, including slowed down housing developments as a result of supply issues and higher bank deposits needed in smaller regions. People in metropolitan and regional areas are finding themselves outside in the cold. And Minister Cook made it clear that it's not for us to judge how they got there, but to work together as a community to help them. There's around 17,000 people on public housing wait lists, but Nat Cook remains confident in the housing allocation process. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Teachers in Broken Hill have once again joined their colleagues across the state by walking off the job today. It's the third time in 6 months they've taken action as conditions in classrooms fail to improve.
They're stressed out and overworked.
Time to teach! We work now!
Teaching isn't an easy gig, but it's getting even harder to do these days. Some feel like they aren't being listened to.
No, they haven't addressed any of them, and they haven't even, there's been no discussion about the teacher workloads at all, and that's a significant issue.
In a show of solidarity, public school teachers were joined by their Catholic school colleagues for the first time in more than 25 years, as conditions aren't any better in that sector either.
Look, they're tough. They're tough for everyone in education, whether it be Catholic or public. I guess the main thing we're after for our school and our situation is just parity with pay.
Most people think teachers work 9 till 3, but in reality, our educators are pulling 50-plus hour work weeks in some instances. With staff shortages being felt across New South Wales, teaching is just not an appealing profession anymore, and morale is at an all-time low.
The workload is exponentially growing. Our pay is exponentially not growing, and we just need our conditions to be bettered. And basically this is for the kids.
Teachers say if nothing gets done, it's the students who will suffer the most. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Spencer Gulf's football community is among those mourning the loss of footy icon Neil Curley. The sporting legend sadly passed away in a car crash at Walker Flat yesterday afternoon. Curley's illustrious coaching career had its start in our region at just 18, first at Woomera in the state's north before taking North Whyallas to back-to-back flags in 1954 and 55 as captain coach. He was named in the league's Team of the Century as vice-captain in 2001 and has a street named after him in the city. Curley coached SANFL premierships at 3 clubs, also later becoming familiar with a new generation as a boundary rider on Channel 7's football coverage in the late 90s. In a statement, Premier Peter Malinauskas said South Australia has lost an icon and Australia has lost a true football legend. AFL CEO Gillan McLachlan also offering his condolences, saying Curley was the embodiment of football in South Australia. And Whyallas' Hannah Ewings has been selected as the first draft pick for Port Adelaide's AFLW team. Since the beginning of her career at Rupina Football Club, the player has continued to excel. Following a stellar 2022 Sandful W season for North Adelaide, the ever-consistent Ewings polled fourth in the league's best and fairest count. Ewings was also a top performer as forward and midfielder for South Australia. Experts say her accolades show she is one of the most complete players to nominate for this year's draft. Still to come tonight, keep left and less overtaking. New lanes open up between Whyalla and Port Augusta. And why TLAP is now offering free at-home lead assessments for expectant parents in the Spencer Gulf. Welcome back. A 37-year-old Port Lincoln woman's been arrested for disorderly behaviour as part of a 3-day police operation targeting antisocial behaviour. 5 others were also reported for offences in and around licensed premises, including a 50-year-old man who was allegedly found carrying a knife inside a hotel. A drug diversion notice was issued to a patron allegedly found in possession of methamphetamine. Several traffic infringement notices, as well as an expiation notice in relation to cannabis possession, were also issued. The temporary speed restrictions affecting the commute between Port Augusta and Whyalla are now being removed with the completion of various overtaking lanes. Local MPs say it's great to see motorists already experiencing a much smoother and safer drive.
It's time to hit the road. The installation of various overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta is now complete, with construction equipment and speed restrictions being all but removed.
Fantastic, isn't it? I can remember getting told by a state member of parliament probably a decade ago that you'll never get passing lanes on that section of road.
But here they are, 4 brand new overtaking lanes spanning across the Eyre and Lincoln highways. The new, wider strips of road making it easier for large freight trucks to keep our economy moving.
But there is a lot of movement on the road at the moment, and you know that the underlying strength of our economy is good. And anything that gets loads and people to their destination both quicker and safer is a great bonus.
Can be a bit more patient knowing there's an overtaking lane coming up, so it just adds to safety and convenience on the road.
The Regional Roads Minister says commuter safety is paramount, with 2 additional metres worth of road shouldering added to each lane to reduce the likelihood of run-off-the-road type crashes.
I've been on the road a heck of a lot, and I said I've had a personal tragedy years ago with my late wife being killed in a car crash. So we need to make certain we have the drive to the condition of the roads.
Local politicians say there is still room for improvement.
We definitely want to see the continuation of the duplication of the highway from Port Wakefield to Port Augusta. It is essential that that happens.
I'm looking to make sure we get a share of that to continue that duplication program. But let's hope that the taps stay open.
Jeff Brock says the highways must continue to evolve as the traffic on them continues to get bigger.
We need to provide more and more overtaking lanes because there's more RVs out there, there's more trucks out there, there's more grain trucks. People do get impatient.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Port Pirie community is taking active steps to eliminate lead exposure. The Environment Health Centre and TLAB coming together with the Smelter Redevelopment Project to achieve significant reductions in lead levels in children.
Pram, nappies, cot, lead assessment. The targeted lead abatement program is adding to their services, offering free home lead assessments for expecting parents.
When baby's on the way, there's a lot of things to think about, so people are always thinking about all sorts of issues. Families do all sorts of things as well to make sure their home is safe for the child.
Executive Director at TLAB explains it's an important measure to take, as those at most risk of lead exposure are children aged 0 to 4 years, which is why TLAB thoroughly cleans play equipment each day.
The way in Port Pirie that a child is exposed to lead is through hand-to-mouth behaviour and ingestion. Most of the lead that's moving around Port Pirie is in the form of dust. So any pathway where dust can enter a house is a challenge for us.
The lead assessment will help identify any potential pathways and if there are any, to offer suggestions so the child arrives into a safe, healthy environment. Mr. Dolan explains that Port Pirie has come a long way through identifying high lead exposure areas and working together with Nearstar to ensure children's blood levels are within a healthy range.
If people want to contact the Environmental Health Centre, that's great. If they're not ready to do that, they can contact us directly.
TLAP have recently moved locations and you can now find them at 125 Ellen Street or give them a phone call. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Cutting edge, the Spencer Golf Uni campus dabbling with virtual reality. And most of the Box Rally participants roll back into Port Lincoln after a 5-day fundraising cruise. Welcome back. Virtual reality is not yet commonplace in our region, but a uni essay lecturer says all that may change in the coming years. Visiting the university's regional campus, Dr. Daniel Harvey has talked to locals about technology that may be right at our doorstep.
Keeping up to date with cutting-edge technology. The University of South Australia's Whyallas campus is continuing its series of free lectures that the local community can attend.
Yeah, so our regional public lecture series occurs every 3 months.
This month's lecture given by Dr. Daniel Harvey, a physiotherapist and pain scientist at the University of South Australia. His recent studies looking at ways to manage chronic pain, often involving virtual reality and sensory training approaches.
One thing we're finding about pain is it seems to relate to information that suggests the body might be vulnerable. So we've been putting people inside the Incredible Hulk and athletes and seeing if that changes pain.
The university staff says talks like this are pivotal to make sure the community stays up to date with new advances.
It is important that we get our research from the city out into the country because this is part of where it's needed. We know that a lot of people in rural areas are struggling with persistent pain.
We're delighted to be able to bring some of our leading academics but also some of our younger researchers to the region to share some of the exciting work that they're doing in the university.
Organisers say the Whyallas campus always has interesting speakers in the pipeline and encourages anyone interested in attending future lectures to keep an eye on their social media channels.
Well, we share our information through our Facebook sites and through our networks we encourage anyone from the public to come along to our regional public lecture series.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
It was all smiles at the finish line of this year's Mystery Box Rally in Port Lincoln, with over 300 participants completing the 2,500 kilometre journey. Teams raced off on Saturday in their rundown cars and had no idea where they would be heading. Thankfully, they all made it back. Well, almost everyone.
Box Rally participants receiving a rockstar reception. After pushing their old rundown cars to the limits, teams finally rolled their way over the finish line.
5 days rally, and on Mystery Box works out to be about 2,500 kilometres during that time, so it's still a bit of a slog, but it's really, really great fun.
A chance to see some of the region's finest countryside, all whilst raising money for a worthy cause.
A great rally. The teams themselves have raised over $1.1 million for this rally, and that all goes to cancer research via the Cancer Council, so it's a really, really wonderful effort by them.
Teams had no idea where they would be driving to until the morning of each day, but they were willing to pull out all the stops to get their clunkers on the road.
The last few days we've done mostly desert. We lost our window somewhere up the highway in the middle of nowhere, and we had to pull the backs out and put them in as the windscreen, and it's just been a fantastic journey.
Postman Pat and his black and white cat also entered the box rally.
So car number 1 was an ex-Oz Post van, so as soon as it was a postie van in Tassie, Pat and Puss.
Teams grateful for the friends they met along the way and were eager to celebrate their efforts.
Yeah, we get to make the best part is the people.
Yeah,
for sure.
The people in the journey is fantastic.
Keen to smash a few stubbies, really. Very excited.
A successful rally overall, with only 4 lemons not making it back alive. Next year's Mystery Box Rally will take place in Bundaberg up in Queensland. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Thursday fishing tips with our experts, and we have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. A major milestone for the Ramblers Netball Club, celebrating its 75th year this weekend. The girls will take to the court wearing the club's heritage uniforms as they take on United Yelana. The club will host a dinner on Friday night, showcasing memorabilia along with some guest speakers. All are welcome to join in with the old and current members to celebrate the rich history of the club. It doesn't matter if you've got a tinny, an old squid jig or the latest model Daiwa Sensor Surf fishing rod. Anything goes when you're just after a relaxing day casting a line. Here's this week's Fish and Tips.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fish and Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, nice and calm at the moment. Get out there and try for those garfish on those nice calm nights. Nat, dabbing along the, actually out in the middle banks, I've been getting some bigger ones out there. Plenty of squid around at the moment, people bagging out all over the place. Obviously last light's the best time to get them, but they have been getting them during the middle of the day as well. King George whiting, some really big ones. Actually up at the top end of the Flinders Channel, they've been getting the main ones around into the oyster run. There's also a school of salmon up in Port Patterson. Should be some kingfish around if those salmon and squid are around as well, so I'd try around the old powerhouse site. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Welcome another week around the Gulf. I tell you what, this cold weather's really brought us on, hasn't it? But, you know, there's always a good thing when you have cold weather. Our King George whiting get better and better in the catching. So if we're looking around the Port Davis area, and just be careful when you're going out there at the moment, the roads could be a little bit wet, but Port Davis around Woods Point, they're really starting to come on big up there, and there's a huge amount of squid there as well. So give that a go over the weekend. Third Creek patches also on the fire. Top end of Ward Spit and top end of Cockle Spit should be able to do some squid and also some King George whiting, but mostly the squid you'll find around the Checkerboy area. You'll have great runs there. Any of you want to travel a little bit further, Eastern Shoal, the northern stickers we've been talking about will also give you King George. But don't forget while you're there though, there's a lot of other fish that are around at this particular time, and salmon are great fun as well. So they're great to teach the kids. So you'll get them at any creek mouth opening in the very last part of the day. That's all we have this week. We'll see you next week.
Hi, Whyallas fishing tips this week. Well, the annual bloodworm run is due Friday, Saturday night this week, so get out amongst those. Obviously have to go after dark. That may make the fishing a little slow this week. If you are lucky enough to get out for a fish over the weekend and you want to try your luck, the best area to target is Cowlard's Landing. There's been some really nice sized King George whiting coming in, and also a little further south. There's been some good numbers of squid holding up in the shallower waters about halfway down to 8 Mile Creek. The local jetty holding just a few squid and a few garfish at night time as well.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. There's been some good reports of some nice sized garfish kicking around in the bay lately, so down in the proper, and also out around Boston Island has had some good sized gar. Also in the proper bay, there's been some reports of whiting, a little bit patchy, but there have been some fish in there, mainly around from the Monument through to Tulka. The south coast of Port Lincoln has continued to produce some nice salmon, especially on the days of those northerly winds. There are quite a few schools dotted down that way. Most fish are around the 2 to 3 kilo size. And up the western side, there's been some good sized salmon at Loxwell and also at Talia. And don't forget the Australian Salmon Fishing Championships are underway at Elliston. So grab a ticket and enter that one if you're heading up that way. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
The Salmon Fishing Championships sound interesting. I'll keep an eye on that one. But time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, almost Friday. How's it looking?
Good evening, Maddie. Friday isn't looking too bad at all. Possible rain in some places. I'll tell you where in just a moment. Looking at today's temperatures now, Port Augusta reached 17 degrees, just 15 in Kadina, 16 in Coffin Bay with a few showers. Looking more broadly at the weather map now, Broken Hill had the lowest maximum temp today, 14 degrees, 17 degrees up in Cooper Pedy, 16 in Whyallas. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system centred south of WA will move eastwards to be centred over the Bight tomorrow, then will remain near stationary until early next week. The high will then move to a position east of Tasmania, but will continue to extend over South Australia. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southeasterly winds 10 to 15 knots, seas around a metre, and south to southwesterly swell between 1 and 2 metres. Cloudy in Port Lincoln tomorrow between 9 and 16 degrees. Showers in Cleve, 14 degrees there. Woodna partly cloudy and 17. Partly cloudy in Whyallas and Kadina, both 15 degrees, and it's set to reach a high of 17 in Port Augusta. Down to 5 degrees in Port Pirie and Clare, 16 and 12 degrees respectively. Broken Hill have some sun and some cloud and reach a max of 13 degrees. Taking a look further through the week now, Saturday is looking mostly fine, except for in Port Lincoln, bit of rain there expected. Elsewhere, temperatures in the early teens, no warmer than 15 degrees. Moving on to Sunday now, and if you were planning a Sunday drive between Whyallas and Port Augusta, check out the new Overtaking Lanes. No rain is forecast at this stage. Clear conditions ahead, 14 degrees in Woodna, 13 the top in Kadina. And finally, Monday's forecast is looking clear, temperatures between 12 and 16 degrees. No rain forecast at this stage either. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. Maddie, it's back to you.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday. I'm Madeline Kerr. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.